I'm Duncan Riak, and this is How to Be Loved by a Woman. I feel like I'm kind of beating this horse to death, but I keep getting inspiration to explain this in different ways and more deeply. So here's another perspective on responsibility. So first of all, we're all suffering. We're suffering so much in every moment, and our suffering is because we're resisting the way the world actually is right now, or we're wanting the world to be different in some other way. And so we're doing that all the time, and we're doing that because we're reacting to the sensations in our bodies. We're having sensations happen and we're pushing them away, trying to get away from them, or we're clinging, wanting sensations that aren't there. And those two things is just the experience of suffering from moment to moment, and we're all doing it all the time. And you can really tell when you're suffering. I mean, it's happening all the time on some level, but you can tell it really strongly when you get triggered or activated, or there's another word for it. What's the word? Triggered, activated. Can't think of the word for it now, but where you get like really angry, flared up. You want to like yell at someone. You're like stomping around. You're complaining. You're getting like really lots of pains in your body, or you're just really irritated, or these are times when you're pushing away, right? These are times when you're suffering really strongly, really intensely, and it's very clear. Oh, if you're feeling depressed, down, hopeless, can't get out of bed, don't feel inspired, feel anxious, worried, or even if you're longing for something, or feeling jealous, or all these things, right? These are all these are all like flavors of suffering. So you know what suffering is when you experience it, and you might not be aware that you're actually suffering all the time, but a lot of people don't realize they're actually suffering at a very low level all the time. And so when you're suffering, you are 100% responsible for your own suffering. You're the only person that can be aware of it fully. You're the only person that can untangle it, unravel it, and stop it. And so you have all the responsibility. No one else can do anything about that. No one can kind of come in and say, Duncan, I see you're angry, and like what I want you to do, what I'm going to make you do right now is I'm going to make you stop pushing away the sensations in your body. I'm going to make you be equanimous with them, just hold them gently and let them be as they are so they can move through and change, right? I'm going to make you do that. No one can make you do that. No one can make you be equanimous. No one can make you be aware, right? And the same thing, you can't make anyone else be aware, and you can't make anyone else be equanimous. So everyone's going around with their suffering, and every so often two people will come along. This person's got their low-grade suffering, and this person's got their low-grade suffering, and this one goes, I want to see my suffering. So they poke the other person starts their suffering, and they're like, I see the suffering, and I'm going to yell at you, and I'm going to yell at you. And these people, they yell at each other, and they argue with each other, and they suffer, and they suffer, and they suffer together. And they have their own independent sufferings, right? They're each independently suffering their own way. And each of those people is 100% responsible for their suffering. If someone comes up to you and pokes you and irritates you, makes you angry, triggers you, you're 100% responsible for your reaction, right? And whatever it was in them that drove them to poke you or say something nasty to you or try to trigger you, that in them is suffering. The reason they did that is because they're not taking 100% responsibility for their suffering. So in relationships, in your relationship, you can really work on not taking it personally when the other person pushes your buttons or treats you unfairly, or calls you names, or says things that are, kind of designed to upset you. And you just not take it personally, because it really isn't personal. It's their own suffering, and they have to be 100% responsible for it. And in fact, the more you can let them have 100% of their suffering and let them suffer, the more that you're empowering them to actually work on their own suffering, become aware of it in themselves, to practice being equanimous with it in themselves, allow it to move through it, allow themselves to come more and more into the present moment, into their actual living power right now, rather than being stuck in all this unlived past that they're struggling with, right? You can empower them by saying it's 100% your responsibility. It's nothing to do with it. We don't say that, right? What you do is you just practice not taking it personally. You practice, and the way you let them have 100% responsibility for their suffering is to take 100% responsibility for your own suffering. So when they poke you and you have a reaction, instead of going, why did you do that? It's to go, I have this. Inside, I'm noticing that I have all this pain in my chest, and it's really uncomfortable, and I don't want to be with it, And so I break the cycle. There's no cycle of pushing each other's buttons. It stops here, right? And it doesn't stop here in an arrogant way. Like, I've seen people describe this kind of thing, and I've seen them go kind of like, I'm not caught. Are you caught? It's like, what the fuck? Like, it's not a game. It's not a fucking zero-sum game. It's not a competition. Who's going to be the most spiritual? Who's going to be the least activated? It's not a fucking game. It's 100% responsibility. Okay? I am responsible for what's happening inside of me now, and I'm responsible for my reaction to it. It's not a game. It's not a competition, because then you're just making it into a button pushing on another level. End that cycle and start to experience the amazingness of this moment for yourself right now, and everyone else will be drawn into it. They'll want to join you in the amazingness of the present moment, and yeah, they're going to have to go through and become aware of all that suffering, and they're going to have to practice being equanimous with all that suffering, but they're going to come and join you. And it's going to be amazing. And it is amazing for you. It can be amazing for you right now. It is amazing for you right now.